Boom. And you thought we were dead. Here we are, back again, covering Ghost Racing Cup Series right here on our preview show. Let's roll that intro. Welcome back to Spin Move iRacing Network here on YouTube. My name is Zach, and over this way we got David. Say hello to the internet, David.
Good to be back, everyone. I know it has been a while, Zach. Good to see you back in the booth here. Lot to cover. Definitely have taken a break over the last few weeks of the Ghost Racing Cup Series, but holy cow, it is playoffs in the Ghost Racing Cup Series, and we are down to 4 drivers. That's right. We have narrowed out our championship 4, and we are going to talk all about it.
Yep, playoffs have come and gone here, and we took a break just because our lives were very different in terms of transitioning from, transitioning studios and transitioning all of our equipment and making sure that we had internet to do this kind of thing. David's not even at where he lives right now, so he can actually record this. So we're pulling a lot of strings to get this off the ground, but we wanted so badly to come back and to do one more here for Ghost Racing Cup Series in their inaugural season. And I'm excited. We got the final 4. We've been keeping up with these guys as I've been racing. I won't be able to race this week, but David's taken some time off because he's been in time of transition over these last few weeks, and we got a championship 4. So let's break it down. Let's talk about it. As you can see on the screen, we have them in different order than what we're going to go over here on the show, but you can see Spies, Gardner, Tate, and MacDonald. That is our final 4, but we're going to tackle these guys one at a time just to give you an expectation of what these drivers are going to do here at Homestead. Before we really get into the drivers, David, let's talk about this track that the Ghost Racing Cup Series is going to go to and attack this week. And we're going to be able to find them on ESBN on YouTube or SRM on Facebook. And let's talk about Homestead. This league is having their championship 4, in my opinion, at the track it should be.
The Homestead Miami Speedway. Talking about the track here, you have a D-shaped oval, little odd shaped compared to most of the D-shaped ovals. That front stretch is fairly straight, back stretch being 1760, and both variable banking, so you're looking anywhere from 18 to 20 degrees all the way up there at the top, with 3-degree banking heading down those straightaways. Track width about 55 feet, so you're looking at some definite 2 wide, and really starting to push it when you talk about 3 wide opportunities with a track as narrow as 55 feet. Those drivers are going to have to be extremely careful. Pit road is 1,900 feet long and 50 feet wide, so there's definitely plenty of space for those drivers to get in and make their stops, and those non-playoff drivers shouldn't be in the way of those final 4 pushing in and making their debut for Homestead Miami this week.
Yeah, I find it really interesting that we have we're going to talk about it here momentarily, a very different group of 4. The drivers are geared differently, and yet here we are at a track that provides multi-groove racing, especially within the corners. You can decide if you want to go high or low or anywhere in between, and yet when it all sorts out, when you get out of the corner, being right up against the wall on the backstretch is your ticket. You really have to maximize drafting opportunities. This is kind of like a super speedway where drafting matters and aero matters, and Definitely a track that is unique and is going to present its fair share of challenges for these drivers. David, as somebody who has raced here at Homestead, kind of explain for the folks watching what is the most challenging thing as a driver looking forward to this particular track.
Despite the banking being at 18 to 20 degrees, I know that I have always struggled finding that right speed and the right entry point to make it through the turns at Homestead. It is a very challenging track in the fact that the driver is not full throttle through these turns, especially later on in the run. Maybe early on in the run, you might go through a turn at full throttle and manage to get it to stick. But as these tires start to wear away, these drivers are going to have to find that line, figure out maybe I need to tap a little bit of brake and really drift through the center of this turn. And then, of course, as you're coming out of the turn, back down to those 3 degrees banking on the front stretch, little careful on the throttle on exits, making sure you don't slide that back end out coming out of either turn 2 or turn 4. So definitely things these drivers must keep in mind, but as a fan watching, things to look for: the exit of turn 2, exit of turn 4, entries. If somebody is tapping brakes slightly, there might be a driver right behind a car that isn't expecting somebody to
Yeah.
start braking for the turn, and could lead to a few incidents there.
Yeah, different breaking points. That's going to be a big topic of conversation, I'm sure, in the booth this week as guys start to diagnose where you enter into the corner versus how you want your exit to be. If you want a better exit, you might have to brake a lot earlier, and that could cause some confusion on the racetrack. But we are here to talk about a Final Four, David, so let's do that right now as we take a look here at Kyle Gartner. I'm going to take two, and you're going to take two to provide a brief overview, and then we'll give our thoughts about each driver, and then at the end of this thing, we'll pick them for our final pick of the season. But Kyle Gartner, we got him, didn't we? At the beginning of this year, we picked Kyle Gartner to make the championship four, and we said that that is a guy that will be the benchmark of consistency for this league. He might not get a win, but he can definitely Ryan Newman his way into the Final Four, and we saw it happen playing in real time on Ghost Racing Cup Series because Kyle Gartner's in the Final Four as the only driver without a win. It's amazing. But yet, Kyle did everything he needed to do during the regular season and playoff play to maximize stage points and to put himself in a great position. He does have one pole on the year, but where his stats really come to shine is that he's got 9 top 10s on the season. And we said all year long, Kyle Gartner's that guy in the number 49 machine that he is going to consistently stack top 10s, top 15s, and his low days are never too low. And that is the recipe for success for a driver who's not going to go out there and win. He's only got one DNF on the year. He, in fact, only has one stage win the entire season. I want a stage this season, so come on, Kyle. But yet here we are, Kyle Gartner in the Final Four. Thoughts on him?
I would like to point out that one of the more interesting stats that you'll see as we go through these, you mentioned that Kyle has 9 top 10 finishes. Out of these 4 playoff drivers, he's actually tied in that stat at the bottom of the list for top 10 finishes, meaning that as a driver consistently, Kyle raced his way around that top 15 mark to make sure that he was getting into that playoff cut line. And then, of course, here later in playoffs, making sure that he got all the way to the Final Four. So impressive there. 41 laps led, also the bottom of the leaderboard for this chart. But he did have 19 starts. So as a driver that has 19 starts, I looked down through the list here and don't want to give away too many spoilers, but there is one driver that has a few less starts than our other drivers. But Kyle leads the way with 19 starts. The other drivers just below him there, averaging around 17 to 18 starts. So very interesting. So glad we picked him at the beginning of the year. So glad to see him up there. I have to say, as a fan now, sitting back, as I'm not going to be able to race again this week, I'm rooting for somebody like Kyle to come through and do it and finally get maybe that win, just to really, that underdog story.
Yeah, and we'll get to our picks here a little bit later on. David, I think you're going to cover Kyle Rocket Spees. So tell us a little bit about that driver.
So Kyle Speeds, this driver is a staple of the top 10 during most of these races, most of these weeks. Looking through the stats here, top fives, he has 14 out of his 18 starts. Top tens brings it up to 16. So this is a guy that you will always find up there fighting for the top position, being in the top five consistently. Laps led, he is at 457. So as a driver, he knows how to get there. Victory lane 3 times this season. He is no stranger to victory lane and definitely has the competitive spirit and edge to put himself in a good position to win this championship for.
I like how
Thoughts on Kyle?
Yeah, I like how Kyle races just because if you look at his stats, and I got him here in front of me, he leads these drivers in stage wins, and Kyle has made it very clear that if he's got track position, he's going to keep it, and he's going to stay up front as long as he can. And I think at a track like Homestead, where clean air is going to be a big factor, being in that mentality of I'm going to take the lead and I'm going to keep it, I think could translate really well here in the final four. But definitely a guy in Kyle Rocket Speeds that maybe his aggressive strategy during the race pays dividends. So talk to us, David, about the phenom that's sweeping this series, the man who made a name for himself sprinting towards the playoff cut line, and he has not stopped. That would be Christopher Tate.
Our driver, as I mentioned earlier, with the fewest starts out of our final four, only making 11 races, but as you mentioned, making an absolute sprint to make it into our playoffs, and only has 1 pole out of those 11 starts, but also tying Kyle Rocket Spees with 3 wins. Top fives, 9 out of 11 races. Top tens, 10 out of 11 starts. He had, the other one was a DNF. So out of his 11 races, got wrecked out once maybe, had an issue with the car or something where he wasn't able to finish. But every time he came out on the track and was able to complete a race, top 10. That says a lot for this driver. Now, unlike Kyle, he was only able to secure 2 stage wins. This is a driver that I believe had some consistency in him, but we usually see him make his way to the front in that final stage and really push for the victory rather than prioritizing the stage points or track position earlier. What are your thoughts on Tate?
I think for that kind of strategy, that really bodes well for him here at Homestead, where stage points don't matter, right? The finishing spot at the end matters, and there is arguably nobody better in the field of being in the front where it matters the most than Tate in the 54 machine. So watch out for him here at Homestead. I'm going to wrap it up here talking about Dylan MacDonald in that number 38 car, where this guy, I got to tell you, at the beginning of the playoffs, we saw that huge rise from Christopher Tate, and I really thought he was just going to run away with this. But arguably, the guy who's been able to stand in his way is Dylan MacDonald in that 38 car. We've been seeing him on a tear here in the playoffs. He's got 4 wins, and he's really been turning it up here come playoff competition. He makes sure that he's up front early and often, not missing track position. He's got 8 top 5s and 9 top 10s. He's been stacking up laps led. I think the mantra of MacDonald through these playoffs is that they will know I am here, and he makes sure that each and every week that 38 car is seen on the broadcast. And MacDonald's arguably got some of the best momentum going into Homestead, as he is continuously up front week in and week out in the playoffs. David, thoughts on Dylan MacDonald?
Looking through the stats here for MacDonald, in 18 starts, he has 5 DNFs, meaning that for whatever reason, throughout those 5 weeks, he was unable to complete the race and likely dropping well down in those leaderboards. Usually we have around 20 to 25 drivers able to complete a race. So for MacDonald to make his way into the playoffs by points, as we do not do a win in your in system here in the Ghost League, is really impressive. Out of 18 starts, he has those 9 top 10s, 8 top 5s. That means that he was consistent throughout the season, especially considering that 5 of those other races that were outside of those top 10s, he didn't have a chance to make it to the top 10 because he couldn't finish the race. That means that there was only a handful of times in which this driver was unable to make his way up into the top 10, and that just speaks volumes. Of course, here in the Final Four, we expect consistency, we expect greatness. I am really looking forward to watching Dylan MacDonald and Christopher Tate battle it out throughout this race, as they are 2 drivers that I see fairly evenly stacked. But I would not write off Kyle the Rocket Speeds or Kyle Gardner. These are 4 drivers that throughout the season, obviously making their way here, have shown that they are the best in the league. But just watching them from a driver's perspective and now from a fan perspective, these drivers are all fast, and I think they all have an equal chance of running away with this championship.
Yeah, so let's talk about it, David. Lay your cards out on the table. Let's talk about who's going to win this thing. Who do you predict to walk away from Homestead Miami Speedway a champion here in Ghost Racing Cup Series inaugural season?
I am going to go with the man that's been on the hot streak as my primary pick here, Dylan MacDonald. Over the last few weeks, he has been very strong and getting up front. I believe that he has what it takes to go all the way here for Homestead and close out the season on a high note. As a bit of a dark horse pick, as I mentioned earlier, I'm really rooting for Kyle Gardner there. He has the consistency, but we have seen in some other leagues that we've raced with him that this last race, he might have been a consistent driver and played nice the rest of the season. But this last race, when everything is on the line, don't be fooled. He's going to take what he needs to take to get his win.
Yeah, and I think those are great picks, and those are great conclusions. Personally, I'm just gonna go with what my eyes tell me, and that is that Christopher Tate at any given week can just whoop the field, and we haven't quite seen that dominance out of nearly every driver on as consistently as what we see that 54 machine do. So my pick, primary pick, I guess I should say, would be Christopher Tate. And what will, I think, come down to, you might have 3 of the top 4 drivers in the top 4. You might have all 3. You might have 3 of the top 4 in the top 3 going for it here at the end. The cream kind of rises to the top, but I think Tate pushes back on the pressure that he's been getting from MacDonald. He's felt that. He knows that over the last few weeks that, hey, I got a challenger now. This is getting really real, and now as the pressure's on, he's got to step up. and I think he does that this week. So, but my dark horse pick would actually be that 36 car, uh, Rocket Speeds, because when he lands on a track that he is fast at, forget about it. I mean, everybody else just kind of falls to the wayside, and we know Kyle Spees has that chrome paint scheme that he likes that is lucky, and we've witnessed some luck throughout the playoffs with paint schemes. We saw Dylan MacDonald go to victory lane with Hubka Real Estate Group on the hood. There's been some gamemanship here with paint, so maybe some luck, maybe some laurel plays in to the championship four here at Homestead. We don't know, but I'm gonna have to settle in on those guys. David, any closing thoughts here for our show today?
If you pick any race to watch out of this entire season, I think that here at Homestead is going to be the best show. You have four drivers laying it all on the line, going for a season championship. And then the other drivers, we didn't talk about it here, and it's really not mentioned at all in the broadcast, but the incentive and why you see a strong field every week is the other drivers are racing for a best of the rest competition. So there is some bragging rights on the line for those drivers that didn't make the playoffs, that were 17th on back, that are racing for their own sort of championship. So there's definitely going to be people vying for position outside of the playoffs, and you might go, wait, why is that driver fighting so hard to keep a spot? And it might come down to they're in the best of the rest competition, just trying to hold a spot, even if it is racing against one of these playoff drivers.
Yeah, great point, and I hope the guys at ESPN cover that and really document that well, just because that fight towards the end is fantastic, and just really speaks to the administrators of this league that put this incentive in, right? That's why Ghost keeps having full fields at the end of this thing, and really encouraged by how much support we're seeing from the drivers that are on the outside looking in. I'm kicking myself that I'm not going to be able to make it this week. I've made every single race this year, and now here at the end, I'm not going to be able to, but it'll be nice to view it as a spectator and to really root these guys on. I totally agree, guys. If you are watching this video, if you've received this video from a friend, they mean well in your life. You need to watch this race, and you can find the broadcasting schedule on SRM's Facebook page, Sim Racing Media, also on ESBN's YouTube page. You will be able to find the Ghost Racing Cup Series links made available there. Please, if you like what you see here, as you can tell, it's not normal yet, and we worked really hard to make sure that we could do one show for you guys, but we do have intentions on getting back to this, making this our normally scheduled programming. We have some really exciting announcements in the work here, maybe for the future. We don't know. But it all hinges on kind of where we settle right now, and I'm really excited for what the future it holds for Spin Move iRacing Network. And until we meet again, guys, my name is Zach. Over here is my partner David, and until we meet again, guys, remember, keep on racing.